You're scrolling phone at night, and your feed's blowing up with parents freaking out, teens venting, and everyone pointing fingers at their phones like they're the root of all evil. Then, bam, here comes the anxious generation, dropped on March 26, 2024, like a truth bomb from Jonathan Haidt, the dude who's basically a rock star in the psychology world. This book's not just a sequel to his past hits, it's a wake-up call, a gut punch, and a game plan all rolled into one. It's got #1 New York Times bestseller cred. Barack Obama's giving it a shout out, and it's the talk of every book talk corner. Why? Because Haidt's tackling the mess of why kids today, our Gen Z crew, are drowning in anxiety, depression, and a whole lotta what the hell's wrong with me. Haidt's not some random guy with opinions. He's a social psychologist who's been digging into human behavior for decades, and he's got the receipts to back it up. Think of him as that cool prof who's seen it all, from campus culture wars to political dumpster fires, and now he's zeroing in on how smartphones and social media have turned childhood into a digital nightmare. The anxious generation isn't just a rant, it's a story of how we went from kids climbing trees to kids doom scrolling, and Haidt's here to figure out why it's screwing us up and how we can fix it. So, grab your popcorn or your phone, ironically, and let's unpack this beast together. All right, let's dive into the meat of this thing. The anxious generation is Haidt's big swing at explaining why. Starting around 2010, kids' mental health took a nosedive, like a full-on crash. Picture this. Back in the day, you'd be out riding bikes, scraping knees, and figuring out life with your pals. Fast forward to the early 2010s, and boom, kids are glued to screens, swiping through Instagram, gaming till 3 a.m., and barely talking IRL. Haidt calls it the great rewiring of childhood, where we swapped play-based vibes for a phone-based life, and it's been a disaster. The stats? Brutal. Haidt lays it out. Depression and anxiety rates for teens doubled, sometimes tripled, between 2010 and 2020. Self-harm? Up 188% for girls, 48% for boys in the U.S. Suicide rates. Up 167% for younger girls, 91% for boys. It's not just an American thing either. UK, Canada, Australia, you name it, they're all seeing the same spike. Gen Z is the hardest hit, and Haidt's like, yo, this ain't a coincidence. His theory: smartphones hit the scene big time around 2007 with the iPhone, and by 2012, social media platforms like Instagram and Snapchat were everywhere. Add in overprotective parenting, think helicopter moms and safetyism, and you've got a perfect storm. So what's the deal? Haidt breaks it down into 4 big foundational harms of this phone-based childhood. Social deprivation. Kids aren't hanging out face-to-face anymore. Time with friends dropped 50% since 2012. They're texting, not talking, and it's lonely as hell. Sleep deprivation, blue light, endless notifications, teens are sleeping less than ever. Less than 7 hours a night. That's a mental health killer. Attention fragmentation, TikTok, YouTube, multitasking, kids' brains are fried from constant switching. Focus? Gone. Addiction, dopamine hits from likes, streaks, and games. Phones are slot machines in their pockets. Haidt's not just pointing fingers at tech, though. He digs into how girls get crushed by social media's comparison trap. Think filters and influencers, while boys retreat into gaming and porn, ditching real life. It's grim, but he's got data galore. Studies, graphs, even leaks from Meta showing they knew Instagram was tanking teen girls' self-esteem. And the pandemic? Made it worse. Screen time doubled, IRL time vanished. But here's the kicker. Haidt's not leaving us hanging. He's got solutions. No smartphones before high school, no social media till 16, phone-free schools, and way more free play. It's a blueprint to claw back childhood from big tech's grip. The book's 400 pages fly by because it's not just stats, it's a story of how we lost something precious and how we can fight to get it back. Let's talk about the guy behind the book. Jonathan Haidt's a legend, and I'm not just saying that because he's got a cool name. He's the Thomas Cooley Professor of Ethical Leadership at NYU's Stern School of Business, but he's been around the block. Born in NYC in '63, he snagged a PhD in social psychology from UPenn in '92, and spent 16 years teaching at the University of Virginia. He's all about moral psychology, how we decide right from wrong, and he's got hits like The Righteous Mind and The Coddling of the American Mind with Greg Lukianoff under his belt. Haidt's life is as wild as his research. He's a former liberal who's now a self-proclaimed political centrist, which means he's pissed off both sides at some point. Respect. He's married, got 2 kids, and lives in NYC, but he's not some ivory tower nerd. He's been on the front lines of culture wars, from campus cancel culture to Trump-era polarization, and now he's tackling the tech mess. His Substack, After Babel, is where he's been workshopping these ideas, and the anxious generation feels like the grand finale of years of digging into why we're all so messed up. Fun fact, he's an atheist, but he's big on spiritual vibes, think Buddhist and Taoist wisdom mixed with science. He's also got a knack for storytelling. His books don't just dumb data. They pull you in like a Netflix doc. Oh, and he's buddies with folks like Jean Twenge, who's been sounding the alarm on smartphones since her 2017 Atlantic piece. Have smartphones destroyed a generation? Haidt's the guy you want at your dinner table. Smart, chill, and ready to drop truth bombs. So, what's Haidt really driving at? The anxious generation isn't just a phone's bad rant. It's a deep dive into what kids need to thrive and how we've screwed it up. First up, plays the OG superpower. Haidt's all about how kids are anti-fragile. They need risks, scrapes, and freedom to grow tough. Back in the 80s, playgrounds had rickety slides and real stakes. Now, it's padded foam and hovering parents. That shift, plus phones, killed the play-based childhood, and we're paying for it with anxious, fragile teens. Then there's tech as the big bad. Haidt's got charts showing mental health tanking right when smartphones and social media took over. It's not just correlation, he argues causation, like how Instagrams likes mess with girls' heads, or how boys' gaming binges zap their social skills. He's got a whole chapter on spiritual degradation. Even as an atheist, he says phones strip away awe, rituals, and real connection, leaving kids adrift. The big message? We've overprotected kids in the real world and underprotected them online. Parents lock kids indoors but hand them a phone with 0 guardrails, porn, predators, endless scrolls. Haidt's mission is to flip that. Let kids roam free IRL and lock down the digital chaos. His 4 rules: no phones till 14, no social till 16, phone-free schools, more play are his battle cry. It's about giving kids a shot at being human again, not just screen zombies. Let's get real. The anxious generation is a banger, but it's not flawless. Here's the full scoop, pros and cons, no sugarcoating. The high's data overload. Haidt's got stats, studies, and leaks like the metadocs stacked up like a fortress. You can't argue with the numbers. Mental health's in free fall and phones are the smoking gun. Solutions that hit. His 4 rules? Practical as hell. Schools banning phones, C-test scores jump and bullying drop. The wait until 8th pledge for parents? Genius collective action vibes. Dragons of wisdom. Okay, not literal dragons, but his mix of ancient philosophy, think Buddha meets neuroscience, is dope. It's not just tech bad, it's humans need this, and tech stealing it. Call to arms, this ain't a passive read. Haidt's rallying parents, schools, even governments to fight back. It's inspiring, like, let's save the kids, y'all. Readable AF. 400 pages, but it flows like a convo. You're hooked, not bored. Causation debate. Critics, like Candace Odgers in Nature, say Haidt's jumping the gun. Correlation ain't causation, right? Mental health was wobbly pre-phones, recessions, shootings, climate anxiety. He brushes that off too quick. Fear factor. Some parents on X are like, I'm tossing my kid's phone in the river. Haidt's tone can feel alarmist, and it might guilt trip moms more than help them. One-track mind. Phones get all the blame, but what about COVID lockdowns? Mass shootings? He mentions them, but it's a side note. Feels incomplete. Preachy vibes, the spiritual stuff's cool. But sometimes it's like, okay, chill, not everyone's into transcendence. Can feel heavy-handed. Data gaps? He admits some evidence is shaky, especially on boys and gaming. Critics pounce on that, saying he's cherry-picking. It's not perfect, but it's a hell of a ride. If you're into hard-hitting ideas with a side of, oh crap, we're screwed, it's gold. If you want a chill, balanced take, maybe not your jam. The nitty-gritty, pages, price, and more page count, 400 pages. It's beefy, but you'll blast through it. Price. Hardcovers $30 US, Kindle's $14.99. Audiobooks $24.99-ish on Audible. Worth it? If you've got teens or care about the future, yep. Bonus. Haidt Substack has free extras, charts, rebuttals, updates. Dive in if you're obsessed. So, The Anxious Generation, it's a beast of a book. Haidt's throwing down a gauntlet. Phone's rewired childhood, and it's on us to unwire it. It's got heart, brains, and a little preachiness, but damn, it makes you think. He wants kids to play, sleep, and live again, not just swipe through life. Worth the read? Hell yeah. Especially if you're a parent, teacher, or just pissed at big tech. Now, let's chat. What's your take? Hit me up in the comments, fam.